All right. So, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm DJ Zlaya. Yeah, my name is Zlatko. Zlaya is a common, so there's no that name. That Zlaya means nothing. That's just a common nickname. It's not like artistical attempt to be very intellectual. So, so yeah. Well, I've been in this kind of a circus for a long, long time. Uh, when it comes to DJing and promotion, like early 90s. But in music, uh, I would say since I was five. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I had a I had a advantage or disadvantage to live in a building that had a radio station on the top of the on the top floor. So that's how I got uh, lured in, and I spent every afternoon there for good 5 6 years, and I got into music heavily at an early age. You know, I think I got into Iron Maiden when I was 7.
Yeah.
A core fan. But by the time I was old enough to understand stuff, I got into punk, and then hell broke loose for me.
Right.
So that was my music in introduction. Yeah.
So that was back in former Yugoslavia,
Correct.
or was it?
Yeah,
Wasn't
that's
Yugoslavia at the time
Yugoslavia. Yeah, we talk about. I was born in '76, so I talk
though? Oh, yeah.
about like 81 and 82, and yeah, that's where when I started collecting vinyl and stuff. I mean, due to all my collection, I still have some records from that era, but I ever since I never stopped collecting vinyl. So that's another side
Yeah.
of, of me.
Yeah. I've seen your record room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I since we're talking about music in Yugoslavia, I imagine it was difficult to get a lot of stuff, um, at least Western stuff, or
Um. Yeah. Not really.
okay.
Not really. Just to in short lines, I don't want to. I could go on about that for a while. Yugoslavia in itself was very specific country or in a specific situation because Yugoslavia, by the book, was a socialist after World War II, communist and a socialist country. However, since 1948, Yugoslavia was not part of the uh, in any connection with Soviet Union
Oh, okay.
and therefore with Warsaw Pact. So we were uh, at almost state of war with Warsaw Pact
Oh,
and those countries like Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania were part of that. So on the borders, we were more, uh, uh, on alert with that than with the West. And of course, that opened the room and space for America and Western Europe to be very supportive of Yugoslavia. So we were technically socialist, but we were way more open for that matter to the world. And Yugoslav passport was one of the most valuable ones because you could travel anywhere with it. You didn't need visa for any country, and therefore since especially since 60s and 70s we were artistically culturally open um, to the west, so which resulted in acts like Laibach and Borgesia and in general whole rock and roll scene. And then when punk and post-punk and new wave came, scene was very, very powerful, not even strong, powerful. And that was the pretty much mainstream. So bands like Discharge or Exploited, Exploited and like Dead Kennedys and all Test Department and all those bands, they were all playing in Yugoslavia regularly throughout from from late 70s and throughout 80s and all up to the war.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had it was almost like to that point that we were taking certain bands or styles, more commercial, like new wave alternative styles for granted, like
Okay.
new romantics and stuff. So yeah, it was very very interesting and very prolific and very good.
Yeah. Well, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that much about Yugoslavia before. Besides, the Yugo.
Yeah, Yugo. Yeah, but in any other way, it was because they were we were like leaders of non-alignment movement which is like not not east west. We were like non-aligned.
Right.
So we're not part of NATO. We were not part of Warsaw, Warsaw Pact. But
Right.
it put us in a very specific and really good position, which of course didn't last,
Right.
and communists broke when balance was off. Then Yugoslavia was also was destined or doomed not to exist anymore,
Yeah.
because that balance was lost literally. Like I guess lots of physics and nature did their course there.
Hmm.
Like a lot of good music came out of there.
Yeah. So, speaking of music, how would you say music, or what does music mean to you?
Well, means everything. Again, I don't want to digress too much or go into my life story, but it means everything to me. Like from an early age, and especially by the time when all that turmoil right before the war out there, civil war and war was happening, right, like it was kind of synchronized with me becoming like 14, 15 when it started, and 16 when war broke out. At the time, I was into like heavy into punk and anarchism, which to this day I share the same stance for certain things in life and society. So it helped me get through all that, um, like sane,
Yeah.
to be actually aware of what's going on, and not to give up, uh, not physically but mentally and emotionally, to submit to all that hell. Um, so it kept me going through all that sense of awareness and rebellion. So got me through all that. I didn't get into like alcohol, drugs, or whatever. It was just activism and be surrounded by like-minded people,
Hmm.
and so that kept me going. And also, I like anything in my life is not pre-planned, like my DJ said. So
Yeah.
right, no presets there.
Right.
Uh, I I thanks to music, I ended up in United States. Not that I think it's living in United States is any life accomplishment, but just to get, like looking from a side, to get opportunity to like not change a country, change the environment, change continent. It could be any other country for that
Right.
matter. But I ended up in States thanks to music. Thanks to involvement with the local scene back in Belgrade, and networking and get in touch with like-minded people across the globe. So um, so far, uh, music is not paying my bills, but keeps me sane and keeps me going. So it means everything to me, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, that's something I'm hearing a lot already. Which when I think about it, it's not surprising, that I mean, if you're DJing, I mean, you're not doing it just just because you're going to be passionate about the music, and especially I know you from watching your show, with the vast amount of knowledge you have.
Yeah,
So obviously it's
I
something
didn't
that's
go to
really
school for
important.
that.
Yeah. But so you said that you were working with a band that got, or just you said you were working in the music scene in Zagreb, and
Bel-
that Belgrade,
Bel-
that got you into the US.
yeah, yeah.
So what?
Want to know about that?
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right. Well, it comes. Yeah. Um, well, uh, again, going back, I don't want to make. I apologize. I don't want to make this about the war and sad story,
Yeah.
but somehow everything is connected.
Hmm.
When war broke, um, in former Yugoslavia, so 91, 92.
Hmm.
Um, in 92, I was born in Serbia, and my father was from Belgrade. Um, so I grew up in Bosnia. My parents were divorced. Typical, again, cliche, uh, kid from a divorced
Yeah.
parents. So when war started, I moved back to Belgrade. It was 92, and that's when officially war
Hmm.
broke up. And then United Nations uh, enforced political and economic embargo on what was the rest of Yugoslavia, which would be Serbia, Montenegro.
Right.
So when I got to be like 16, pretty much when I got, and many others, like-minded people, we got stuck there, stuck in a sense that you could not travel anywhere. You were not allowed to. You couldn't physically. You couldn't leave Yugoslavia or Serbia, which means you couldn't travel. No music could come in. No
Mm.
bands would come in to play. So we were left with what we had at our disposal at the time, and which indirectly, I'll jump to that. People, we couldn't see bands that we love, so people started creating their own stuff.
Yeah.
So it inspired people out of not enthusiasm, but out of desperation to start creating their own thing.
Hmm.
And so I was part of that. I was part of that scene. So we started. We were doing clubbing and stuff, and then it grew into like regular scene where you had bands and we would
Hmm.
have concerts and stuff, and then ended up having like a show on a few local radio stations. So from this perspective, sounds ideal. It's like sounds like perfect setup. You had bands, you had scene,
Hmm.
you had freaking radio show, like you had all these creative people around you. Like,
Yeah.
what did you complain? But it was all like with any other scene. It was really out of desperation and
Right.
inability to, like if you watch Made in Sheffield, they were all
Right.
depressed and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it started. And then when we had something to present, we were literally like all DIY. We were like
Right.
uh, mailing discs and compilations
Very,
across the
very
Europe.
punk.
Well, punk.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. I
yeah,
mean, punk
DIY.
is kind of
That's
that.
what it is.
Yeah. It's kind of the DIY, um, you know, attitude and actions in music. Right. Just
Yeah. Well, it's
you
the
know.
same attitude. I don't see punk and industrial in any different way. That's
Mm.
that's the same thing, but musically expressed in a punk was expressed in a kind of limited. But that's a
Yeah.
different topic. We can talk.
Right.
We
Right.
can
Right.
talk about
Yeah. Yeah.
it. That's the same. In my head, it's the same. It's the same thing. You know, we share like that DIY culture, and you know, and I'm both. I consider myself both. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the DIY culture is I think really an interesting topic in music. You know, because it has spawned a lot of, you know, great music as people just, you know, when I listen to things like The Normal, you know, and it's like uh, that was all like amazing stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but
I mean,
yeah, it's
that was not. I mean, if you, what Dan Miller did was exactly that. Like any other punk like Buzzcocks,
mhm,
did their own like um, label, and then one of the pioneers, and then Dan Miller did what he did with Normal, which
mhm,
resulted in Mute Records, which is yeah, giant. Um, but that was that. Yeah, that's exactly what punk or whatever you want to call it. You know, like
mhm,
they even they were calling normal punk, but you know you had Throbbing Gristle, which was was formed at the same time, and first concert of Throbbing Gristle was with another band called Chelsea, which is a cult punk band, which Generation X came out of that. So like, is it punk or industrial? I really that doesn't matter. But you know, we
yeah,
can we can talk about it. But
right,
it's the same. I think it's the same attitude.
yeah.
The
The
punk was way more popular, so it was attributed to that.
yeah, it just happens to be the marketing behind one versus
Yes,
the other, right?
absolutely. Well, why is it called punk? You know, because someone labeled it that way.
Right.
You know, like so.
Yeah. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier, and it also ties in with the music, particularly you know the music out of the you know the 70s in the UK and is you know the politics, the activism behind the music, right? So there was obviously you know a lot of protests, you know, kind of lyrics. So you mentioned activism as part of your scene. So can you say a little more about that?
Within within scene, like which specific
So well,
scene
you
you.
mentioned so any scene. I mean, going back to Yugoslavia or
Ah,
anything you've done here.
uh, well, it's been all along. Well, back then it was you know a lot of things. I mean, we had very oppressive like political like regime in 90s, so it was easy to be an activist or to be a rebel or whatever. I
Yeah,
mean, easy in a sense that you had so many things to motivate you to do so, uh, and to be inspired in a negative way to act and react. Another when when you have oppressive system, then it can be
right.
dangerous as well. Um, so it could. I mean, it was true anything. Like to every event that we did, was it a club event or a concert, was a statement uh, as such. You know, example of activism. Was it fanzines that we did? It's everything that we did. We tried to stimulate like other people to you know, to open their eyes and to be aware of what's going on and to inspire them to do their own thing. You know, we
Mhm.
were like very limited in many ways, but you know, like I said, every single thing that we did was a statement of in its own way. In states, when I moved to States, similar thing. I mean, I spent some 8.5 years. The first when I moved to States, I spent in Indianapolis, Midwest scene.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, nothing too radical like in that period. It was just pure music, to be honest. I
That
was
was the 90s,
uh, early 2000s.
early 2000s. Okay.
So I was very, to be honest, I was very content in a way that I didn't have any of those issues like in 90s.
Right.
If after all, it was more liberal, not liberal capitalist way. I'm not talking about that.
Right. Right.
It was more liberal, you know, with uh, with uh, with subcultures and stuff. So it was still Midwest and Heartland, but still, you could do stuff. So it was purely music. However, when I moved to California, uh, into Bay Area, in 2011, and when I moved here, I really thought that I would retire from DJing.
Mm.
But then, of course, it's like an old addict. When you hang out with other addicts, I met I met few DJs here, and then got sucked into it again. And however, over here, oh, naturally, it's Bay Area, San Francisco Bay, and very large number of like-minded people with same views on the world. So
Right.
it's much more rebellious here, and then soon after, like what, 5 years, we got, you know this like populist and this alt-right and these right-wing things in the world, and here we go again. So
Yeah. So where do you see either yourself and or music in general in in that resistance? Obviously you call your show Resistance. Resistance for the last 4 years. Um, so where do you see yourself or music in that?
it's very I to be honest, like I had some sort of deja vu, or
Yeah.
for those who don't know, already seen, literally translated from French. I'm not showing off here with my French, but it's kind of flat. It was like a flashback, and reliving with these elections that just happened.
Mhm.
Uh, for me, I was kind of reliving the same nightmare, um, like it was before first multi-party elections in Yugoslavia, when everyone decided to vote for wrong, making wrong choice.
Yeah.
And in that case, it was voting for nationalist parties, which resulted in a war. And over here, it was more on a global thing, when we were paralyzed with all these right-wing movements and politicians who even took over in some European countries, and across the globe, like Hungary, Poland,
Right.
Austria, Brazil. You have Putin, who's for fucking 20 years
Yeah.
on the throne of Russia. Nothing weird about that, yeah. Um, and you have like China. So those totalitarian and right wing thing became a thing again,
Hmm.
and we got Donald Trump, which is that exactly what it that, and then we came to the point that we have these elections that were really to be or not to be for the planet, in my opinion. So, like I said, flashback. I was kind of reliving the same nightmare. So where do I see? I kind of saw it. It was the same to me.
Yeah.
It's just like, are we doing anything on? Are we playing any important factor? No. Do we influence? Can we have some impact in our microcosmos that will world that we live in? Yes, absolutely. Even if it's within the scene, you know,
Hmm.
even if it's within a circle. That I had a situation last night. Uh, I had dinner with my cocktail twin Scott, my brother Scott, and and there was other people were there, and someone said, "Well, I'm a liberal." And I'm not the type of a person like nitpicking or whatever. And this person is way more. I'm not saying names or what that person does, but it's one of the pillars of activism, if you would,
Hmm.
in East Bay, within a scene, and in like person that does a lot
Yeah.
for the community. And person said, "Well, I'm a liberal," and I'm like, "Are you really?" Like,
Hmm.
do you, this person that's way deeper than me into
Hmm.
every aspect. And I said, "Are you really?" And I said, "Well, when you say liberal, that means it's a liberal capitalist. That's exactly what I know you're against, you know
Yeah.
you're not, so when you say stuff like that, even tiny
Yeah.
things like that you know can make the difference. And I'm not taking any credit that I'm like life changing, that I'm providing life changing experiences out there. But tiny things like that, even when we're joking and we're in our program, can really, in a sarcastic way, how I love to do it,
Mhm.
can really give that right information that can, you know, make some difference and then cause chain reaction. Because it just tells me that we have so much around us that people really are not aware of certain things. Not because they're like ignorant or they're not interested. It's just you sometimes you miss one piece that can be so important. So yes, I don't see myself or other comrades or counterparts around very like important in the process, but also indirectly, yeah, it can be. It has an impact.
Yeah. So I forgot what I was going to say to that, but you're
I
making
talked too much.
people.
I'm sorry.
No, no, no. It's right. Well, you mentioned it before. Was this idea of making people think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, right. So I think that's kind of what you were getting at there, which is,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Well,
it's
nothing.
not an in your face, chanting, but more of a intellectual uh, stimulant of,
Yeah,
right. Well, here's a little seed. Um, let that take you somewhere.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's again, I don't give it. I don't find it anything revolutionary. I mean, that's been for since mankind existed, and it's been throughout, history of us humans, like vox populi, like that's it's just how we um, how we be, so we had these struggles like throughout the centuries and stuff. So I'm not. It's very important, because we can't be just like fall into this like conformity. I think
Mhm.
that's the issue with conformity. you think you exist, and you can be comfortable with current status quo, because there's always going to be certain groups, or uh, you know or parties that will try to take advantage of the others. So if you can't be content with it, and like, or passive, unless you're directly involved and you have some use from it, or for some personal benefit. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, kind of segueing a little bit,
Mhm.
I've, as perhaps you know, and others, I teach entrepreneurship, and I get into social entrepreneurship and ecopreneurship, and I've evolved my thinking about what that means. And most people will say, "Oh, entrepreneur, that means you start your own business," but I look at it as,
That was my understanding. So like,
yeah, I mean that's the common understanding. But being an academic, of course, I'm thinking about it. I've been thinking about what is entrepreneurship for like 20 years, and that's always evolving. And I've moved to this idea that entrepreneurship is really much more of a way of thinking about changing something, um, in or taking advantage of opportunity. Um, and by change, just starting a business, you're changing a marketplace, you're changing a product. But there's, obviously a lot more that that can be changed. And so I think I've been thinking about this idea that the entrepreneurial mindset of looking at what can we do, what is possible, um, and taking action. So that's really important part of entrepreneurship, is actually doing something. Right? Some people will distinguish, an inventor from an entrepreneur. An inventor has a great idea, but doesn't do anything with it. An entrepreneur is the one that brings it to market and all that. So with that kind of perception of an entrepreneur, um, I always consider artists, musicians, and even DJs as entrepreneurs, because they're creating something new, um, and they're, particularly when you get into sort of the more political, you're trying to cause change. Um, so it, I guess, instead of me yammering on about it, what's your thought on that?
uh, um, well, it's hard for me to like
Yeah.
to differentiate it from like a business perspective. I don't know. It's kind of tricky. It's very tricky. Not tricky is the right term, but uh, in a sense is, when from DJ perspective. Okay, so maybe some will disagree with me. I mean, but
Mhm.
I think like what we do as a DJ and promoter is very, very powerful, um, very impactful, and very important in presentation but of music. But in the vast majority, we are we are presenting some other people's art and music and work.
Right.
So from that perspective, I don't, like, we're still playing, presenting other people's music. So
Yeah.
just in in from that, it's like great. I love it, and having ability to share your excitement and love for certain track, or
Hmm.
band, or with to share it with others is
Yeah.
a blessing in itself.
And
Now, to go further than that, um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't
well, what
have
I would
precise.
jump in and say that one of the things that kind of defines an entrepreneur is that they're pursuing a passion, right?
Yeah,
Most entrepreneurs aren't creating a
yeah,
business because they're trying to make money. They're doing it because they have something that they really like, and they find that other people like it too, and so they share it. And the way it comes about is, can be a business. So in that sense, you could see, being a DJ is very much in that same mindset. One of the things that I have students do in my class, and they hate it, but it's fun, is I make them do Venn diagrams of like what's an entrepreneur, what's an activist, what's a social entrepreneur. And it's really interesting to see how they draw them, like where the overlaps are. Um, but what I always put in the middle for me is passion. All of them are pursuing something that's a passion, just in a different way, right? An entrepreneur is making a business. A social entrepreneur may be creating a nonprofit organization, perhaps, or some uh, foundation or something. And an activist is out there, you know, in the streets, or getting petitions going. Um, so what I'm kind of segueing into is, I try to think about what I can do with my knowledge of entrepreneurship uh, to help with with DJs, clubs, musicians, all that kind of stuff. Because as you may know, I'm a hype train junkie. I do that because it's kind of my way of being able to help.
yeah,
So I'm pushing that, just to get more people, going with giving their bits and
yeah,
subscriptions and all that.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Especially, for because I know a lot of DJs are, they're out of work. This is their livelihood.
yeah.
Um, I know you're not dependent on, you have a regular job. Um, but yeah, that's so I guess a question would be, um, what do you see as something that I could contribute with that knowledge?
You particularly.
Yeah.
Well, people don't know. We had these conversations before. uh, Really good ones with our good friend Joe Virus.
Yeah.
Well, like, and I thank you. I thank you for your support in every way with what you do. I gotta give you the big respect, admiration
Uh,
for your passion and love for music, and how we even met is just by chance, through Twitch. So I appreciate your efforts to bring this to another level,
mhm.
like where it's beneficial for everyone. Um, well, like I said, we talked before, and some ideas that you came with were very interesting and good. So to this day, it's still, I really, uh, you can help. You're helping already a lot, but I'm like going, like, I'm thinking, like, even like further. I'm seeking for like end result,
Yeah.
for and the answer, for final like answer to that. And I'm still not sure how how would that what would that be, Dave? Um,
Well, that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out with this show.
Yeah,
You know,
you were mentioning that.
yeah.
What's the name of that platform? Like, is it Partian? What's the name of it?
Oh, GatherTown.
No, that was the other
Oh,
one. Something with P.
Periscope.
Yeah. No one, but when we talked with Joe Byron, when we had discussion that it was something like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
6 after all streams were over.
Oh,
There
Patreon.
was
Patreon.
Patreon, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And which was very effective and good. And Joe was talking about he was using example of Kevin Key, and which
Hmm.
is great again, like which is very good. But I'm like, I still, if it was if I'm promoting my own music with this stuff,
Yeah.
I have no absolutely, but like from DJ perspective and presentation of other people's like work, I don't know. I'm I'm not even split. I'm like I feel like I'm hitting the wall there. Like
Mm.
so, I don't know with those hype trains and stuff. And you said great. Yeah, you mentioned it. Uh, like likes of Joe Virus is he's like
Yeah.
perfect example. It's a guy. This is his. That's his source of income. That's his life. That's how he pays bills. That's how he survives. And there are people like him out there. And with what's happening right now, it's just terrible. My roommate is uh, he owns he's a bar owner in Bay
Mhm.
Area.
Yeah.
Legendary Elbow Room SF and Oakland, and it's been closed since March.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's not that's his bar owner. He's also like a promoter and stuff. And that industry is shut. Our
Right.
friend of ours, Jesse from LA, was in Pure Ground and other bands, and he's he does sound. He's a sound, like on one of the big venues in LA. That was his job. He was sound engineer. And are there any concerts now? No. We can go on. Um,
Well, I
so
think, one of the things that's coming out of this is are people looking for ways to still do something, right? Still do shows in some way. Um, you're seeing that a little bit, with people, with the bands that'll get together and they'll, each individually shoot a scene, and then, they're part of their drum, whatever, and they put it together in a video, or, um, they'll do something like, like, uh, like in Cold Waves, where they get together and,
yeah,
um,
and
they'll put on a little show with like nobody or very few people there, to try and get that out there.
yeah. Well, it was there. I don't know. You're familiar with our fellow DJ in Seattle, Block Sinister. She does
Um,
it Thursdays, and she started doing live. I mean gigs on
mm,
Twitch. Every Thursday, she would have two or three bands like play,
okay.
and and uh, and sometimes the other DJs in there, and it was she's been doing it from the get go, and she has these live gigs on Twitch, and people will go. It wouldn't you can go there, but it's you don't have to per se pay cover, but suggests like a donation because there are three bands that are playing
Right.
performing. So I mean, that is great, and I see more festivals now are happening on Twitch of that nature.
Yeah.
So that's something. Um, there is a venue in Oakland that actually Scott is doing. sound for those events. They started actually doing. Um, they're gonna do their own, like, venues gonna do their own, like, channel online, and for subscription they'll have more and more bands play, and they're
Okay.
gonna record it live, and then who pays like a monthly subscription will have access to all the content. So I mean,
Yeah.
there are ways.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I thought of some ideas on that, like just having a camera, in a club or whatnot, when when they are eventually open, or even before they're open, and having people rent access to the camera to be able to move it around, and if you put it on one of those oh, what do you call it, the segways, right, and they can move around and actually feel like somewhat like they're there, you know
Yeah,
um or even going into like 3D, and really getting much more of an experience. I think on the other end of this, when we clubs do get to reopen, that they'll have found these other revenue streams, and so the
yeah,
ones that survive will definitely be much stronger. I hope.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is definitely learning experience, and
Mhm.
and I mean, damn, you know, we should be damned if we don't learn
Yeah.
from
Well,
from
this.
from this from so, but that's definitely, there's with internet is and these technological advances that we have right now, up to this time in history, there's many ways.
Yeah,
um,
this is the time for that DIY attitude.
yeah, well,
Just,
I mean, so with all these streams and stuff,
yeah,
I mean, there's this venue in San Francisco, DNA Lounge. They've been doing webcasts and stuff for a long time.
yeah.
For, I mean,
So
we're talking
before,
like long time. I mean,
yeah,
I know I flew in 2006 from Indiana to see Mentala and the Fixer here, and and when I flew back to Indiana, I went to DNA website, and you could actually watch and listen to the gig. It's on the
yeah,
calendar. After the fact, and that's how I connected it to my computer from actually CD recorder, and I had recorded that gig after the fact.
oh yeah,
We're talking at that point, like what, 16 years ago, 14 years ago.
mhm.
I, but and they've been doing the webcasting like ever since. So now it could be, now maybe they can, when they do that guild out there, which is a legendary,
Yeah,
golf event, maybe they can have people pay the some, cover, fee to watch and listen. Up to this point, they could do it for free, but everyone was taking it for granted, I guess.
yeah. Well, this is one of the things I think is working well with Twitch, is the global connections that everybody's making, right? Like,
That's
how would
that
I have ever discovered you as a DJ? Uh, you know,
exactly.
I live in Charleston, South Carolina. It's
Yeah,
and now I'm listening to DJs all over the place, and connecting DJs. Right,
yeah,
everybody's kind of starting to network and finding the people with similar interests in music and all that. Um, like you were talking about earlier, finding that those people with this similar tastes and right, and so we're kind of
yeah.
finding each other here,
We
so
find
that
each other.
yeah,
We
um,
eventually we find each other. Scene is not that big, but this definitely, how to say that, fast forwarded. Like it kind of amplified speed up the process, like
Yeah.
Twitch definitely did. Yeah, yeah. It kind of
So
like it's a shortcut.
yeah. So that you were saying, early on that music is kind of what helped you, and I think that's why a lot of people watch Twitch. And so we are very thankful to you and the others that are out there making music or playing music, because this helps us get through things.
Absolutely.
So there's definitely mutual benefit.
Yeah.
Um, and I will continue to encourage people to, if they can, throw in those tips and join the hype trains.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you. Well, again, I'm blessed. I'm using that term, even I'm anti-religious
Yeah.
guy, anti-religion and religion guy, because it divides people. But thank you for that, because in my case and Scott's case, and we spend all our when we pay our bills, we spend all our money on music. So we are kind of broke because everything goes for music. So if other people tip, it's all that money goes back to.
and that's what that a lot of the DJs say is that all the money they're making goes into not just buying music, but also upgrading equipment and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So and obviously then for some it just helps pay the bills.
yeah.
uh, but I want to kind of bring it to a close here with your final question, is what gives you hope?
That gives me hope. Well, all this, honest, all this. Yeah, it's weird. We live in weird times. I've seen worse, but this is one definitely, like, on a global scale, very very interesting one and hard one. But exactly what's happening right now, and this conversation with you is the evidence of that, and how we all networked and connected, and that's that gives me hope, makes me going, and is evidence that what we do individually and collectively makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. That's what makes me happy and
Good.
keeps me sane,
Yeah.
because evidence that I'm not alone. We're
Yeah.
not alone. There's a lot of us
Yeah.
in the same boat with the same sentiments and beliefs, whatever
Yeah.
that is. So
Yeah. I was mentioning to somebody else that we're fortunate that this pandemic is happening now and not 10 years ago, because the technology really wasn't there
yeah,
so much for the streaming and the interaction and all that.
yeah,
So that's I'm so glad, and I'm sure everybody is glad that everybody's found their way to Twitch, or still finding their way to Twitch perhaps. um, but um, with that, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. And now we're going to go and find out what it is that you're going to be playing tonight. Because when this airs, we're going to finish up and raid into your set. So it looks like you froze. I guess that's a good time to end. So thank you.